Hi, I'm Tom Miggett from Tom Miggett Photography. Over the past 20 or so episodes, you heard and read me mentioning on multiple occasions a crucial phase in digital photography, and that is post-production. Post-production is really where the magic happens. This is where the shots you took with your favorite camera will take life, will become digital images. There are hundreds, maybe thousands of tools out there on the market to take care of this post-production. However, today I want to share with you the tool that really works for me, and I know it works for millions of other photographers. This tool is Adobe Lightroom. Before we dive in, I would like to say that as you know, I've been working for Adobe for many years, and this is in no way a promotion video for an Adobe product. I just happen to work for this fantastic company and I just love this product. So this is it. This is not a tutorial, this is just a presentation and overview for those of you who do not know what Lightroom is, and maybe you would like to give it a try afterwards. So let's dive in. The version that I'm using today is the latest one. This is Lightroom 4, which was released about 2 months ago, so in March 2012. And what is Lightroom? Lightroom is the equivalent to the darkroom in film photography. This is where you're going to develop and tune, I would say, retouch the shots you took in your camera. However, it's a little bit more than that. It's also a tool where you can organize your exposures, and when you need to go back and go find your images, you can use that tool, and that's the best way to organize it, as far as I'm concerned, to organize your exposures. And I have about 8,000 images. So what you see now on the screen, this is the main module, this is library, and this is where you can search for your images, go through all of them and view them. There's one thing to understand about Lightroom, is the first thing when you install Lightroom, the very first thing that Lightroom will ask you is to create a catalog. And this is very important to understand. A catalog, I'm going to show you what it looks like. This is it. This is that file here. That catalog is where Lightroom will record all the references of your images, and every time you edit an image, every single edit of an image will be recorded into this catalog here. So when you import pictures, so let's see, for example, here at the bottom left I have the import button. When I click on this, I just happen to have an SD card into my computer at the moment. You can see it finds my SD card, it finds my RAW file, the CR2, because I'm shooting RAW and I'm shooting with a Canon camera. It also finds my movie file, so the MOV file that I shot the other night. When I'm gonna press import here, as you see above, I have this destination, and this is very important. I can copy the exposures that I want, or the movie that I want, into onto my file system. And I'm not importing the images into Lightroom per se. Lightroom will only record the reference of that image, the location of that image. And let me just show you quickly how I personally organize my exposures. I have two root folders. I have Tom Pix here and I have Tom Pix Edit. Tom Pix Edit is where every time when I import new exposures after a shoot, I put them in under Tom Pix Edit under a folder like Grangemouth here. And I know that all the images that are under the Tom Pix Edit structure, those haven't been edited yet, or I'm still working on them. The Tom Pix folder here is really where all my finished exposure, my finished edit are. So, and I personally like to organize them by country, as you see here, England, a place like Yorkshire Dales, and then the time, so February 2011. That really works for me. But you can choose exactly what you want, and you can do some stuff as well during the import, applying some develop setting just to speed up your workflow. And as you can see at the top here, you also can transform, for those of you who shoot RAW, decide to transform the RAW file into a DNG file. I will do a video on the DNG in the future. So let's assume I click import. I'm just clicking cancel here because I've done it in the past. So like I said, this is the library module. This is where you see all your images. There are 7 modules, as you can see here at the top. We've got library, develop, map, book, slideshow, print, and web. I'm going to go very quickly through all of them and spending a little bit more time on the develop. So there's not much to say here on the left. You can see your exposure. If I select one particular exposure, what you can see on the right here is the histogram, and we can see the detail of the exposure settings, so the ISO, the focal length, the aperture, and also the shutter time. And below you have the regular metadata with the EXIF data, where you see when the shot was made, what camera was used, whether the flash was fired or not, and the exposure settings as well. And at the bottom, right underneath, you can see some copyright settings which were added as I was imported the image from my SD card onto my computer. So this is really the library. You can do very quick things like flipping the image, but that's really not the place where you're going to do your edit. Your edit is going to take place in the develop module. So the develop module, basically what you have is, let's look at the right side. So you still have the histogram, which is always valuable, and it's suffice to say that it's a dynamic histogram. So as you go through the edit, the histogram will reflect the changes that you make. There are tool sets here. I'm going very quickly through them. They're all covered. All the panels pretty much are covered on my blog, and you know the address is tommigotphotographyblog.com. So I really invite you to go there to get more insight. There's some tool set here like the crop tool, spot remover if you want to clone some stuff. The red eye correction. Obviously, there's no eye on this image, but that's what it is. Here's the graduated filter, so it's the equivalent to what you have in real life with real filters that you put on front of your lens, but here you do it in post-production. So it works pretty much the same. You say it's graduated, so only half is affected. So just really very cool tool. And the next one, we're going to talk about it in a second. What I want to show you is on the left. Notice here we've got kind of a preview of the image, and you might be wondering why we have this preview. Well, the reason for it is because we have another panel called presets, and those are presets that came with Lightroom. And as you hover the different tones, those are black and white tones. You can see in the tiny preview what the effect would have on the exposure. Underneath it, you have the history. And you remember what I told you at the beginning about the catalog. The catalog is where you keep the reference of your image, where Lightroom keeps the record of your image, but also about every single edit action that you do in the develop module or in the other module as well. And you can see here, we can see the history, so the graduated filter, the spot removal, and anytime I can go back to the initial image, and because all those changes are saved not on the image itself but within the catalog, your image on the file system is absolutely saved. You know, it's you're not going to damage it. It's always there. So if you were to think about exporting your image after editing it, for example, you would not go under your file system and copy whatever image you have there, because that one would be exactly matching the one you shot. You will need to go from Lightroom and use the export button from the library module to export your image with all the changes, all the edit that you may have done on it. So that's the history, and that's really good because you can always go back in time. So that's really interesting, and you don't have this worry of having a buffer for the history. It's indefinite. It will grow and grow and grow, and you always can go back and revert to some changes. So here, back on the right panel, you have the basic. The basic, as I said, is really basic. A very, very powerful tool though. So you have plenty of mini sliders here that are very, very interesting and very easy to use. You see, like for example, the shadows. It will select all the zones that are shadows in your exposure, and if I slide it to the right, well, it will you know, increase the brightness of it. You notice that the grass became brighter, but it will not change the highlight because highlights are not shadows. If I want to affect the highlights, then I just move the highlight slider like that. So it's very, very easy to understand what each slider does, and obviously every time you apply, let's say, the exposure, for example, it will affect the entire image. So let's go back to the adjustment brush, which I mentioned just before, because this is really a powerful, it's probably the most powerful tool in Lightroom, and I use it in most of my exposure, if not all of them. What it's really about is that you can apply specific changes to a zone that you choose, and that's really powerful. You know, in the basic, it would affect the entire image or a specific zone like the shadow. Here, I am the one decided which zone is getting the attention here. And there's a cool option like auto mask, and that what it is, for example, Lightroom will detect zones that are supposedly equivalent, and that is done with the pixel detail. So if I'm actually going on that tree here, you can see my tree is not being affected by this increase of exposure. However, the sky behind is, because Lightroom consider that there's no difference between the sky and my grass here, but the tree is not being affected. So it's a very powerful. I guess you imagine the power and all the possibilities that you can do, you have with this tool here. If we go down, there's this HSL sorry panel, very powerful because you can apply saturation on specific colors like magenta, for example. I'm just going to increase the saturation here, and you see it's only the magenta that's being affected and nothing else. So you can do some very cool effect. Lower here the detail. This is really a praised tool in Lightroom by many users, and this is the noise reduction tool. And this is where, when this image has no noise issue, but this is what you could use to really improve the quality of your shot when you took at night, for example. And I will do a behind the scene episode soon of a night shot that I took of the stars, and we will see how I use that tool to really improve the quality of the shot. Underneath it, you have a very valuable tool, that's the lens correction. You remember in the metadata, if I'm going back to the library module here, you've got details about the lens being used and the focal length, for example. So in the develop, what it does is, in the lens correction, it will get this information and go fetch a profile and correct any defect that your lens may have. All lenses have defects, whether it's distortion or chromatic aberration, and this is where you can actually correct those very quickly just by clicking. You see here, I'm just doing this, and you see the effect that it has, kind of repairing some distortion here a bit, and you have the chromatic aberration underneath it. And finally, the last panel that I want to talk about is the effect here. This is just for vignetting in post-production. So you see, I can just bring some bright vignetting, or on the contrary, going darker. So that's for the develop. There are so many possibilities. The power of those tools are just amazing, so I'm not going to cover them. I will do episodes on a specific effect that might be interesting, but not today. And going very quickly through the rest of the modules, this is map, so let me just select all my images, like the root folder, for example. Well, not this one, but the Tompics folder, and I'm going to maps. That map is generated by Google, and if you can choose a specific location, and as you see, it will show all the images that you took and locate them. Don't get me wrong, I mean the GPS location needs to be stored in that file, so I'll do an episode on how to take care of this if your camera, because most of them don't have GPS coordinate. So I will show you a trick to get that information. But if you didn't have it, you can always search for them, and that's how I did it for most of my exposure. I just typed the name here, for example, Edinburgh, and because it's working with Google Map, then it just search Google, and as you see, all the shots that I took in the area of Edinburgh. So let's move on to books, for example. So that was a feature that really came with, so map and book came in Lightroom 4, and while map can be a gadget, I must admit, book, I was really looking forward to it because, as you know, there are many companies out there on the market that do printing services, and most of them would do book publishing as well. However, they either let you do through the website, or you download a software from their website, and that can be very time consuming, and sometimes you're not that free when it comes to arranging images and text. And Adobe did a really good move here in implementing that module, because it's very easy, and because Adobe has other product, you know, it's a publishing software company and has many tools such as Illustrator, for example, so really have the good libraries and good skill of programs to make things easier to create in order to create books, to implement. So they did a really good job with it. Very easy to do images and put a text the way you really want to. And as you can see at the bottom, so you have many settings here on the right, but you see at the bottom there's this button to send the book to Blurb. Blurb is one of this worldwide printing service company, and Adobe has been working with them to create this seamless plugin. So I know it works very well, and then you make a payment and you will receive the book. So I haven't had the time to, I played a bit with it, but I didn't finalize a book yet because, as I said, this is a new feature and I only had that Lightroom for the past 2 months only. But really cool one though. Let's move on. Slideshow. I've used Slideshow in the past. Remember the episode on the photo shoot that I did of the rock band, the French rock band In Cry. I took all my best exposures and I created a slideshow using that module, and then I exported. You see at the bottom left here, you can either export in PDF or export as a video, and this is what I did, and then I just put it in Premiere Pro where I did my episodes usually. So you have a bunch of settings here. Very cool, very easy module to use. The print, I never used it personally because I do not own a professional printer, but I'm sure it's very useful for whoever does have one. And the final one is web. I did use it for Lightroom in Lightroom 2 and then in Lightroom 3. If you have your own website where you publish your exposures and you want to do gallery, sometimes it can be very tricky, a lot of development behind it if you don't pay for that kind of service. I know Apple had My Gallery for that, but anyway, this tool is really good because you select all the exposures you want and it will generate you a Flash gallery or an HTML based gallery, and you just need to export it and then upload it to your web server, and this is it. The gallery will be done. So it's a really powerful tool. So this is it, folks. This is what Lightroom is all about. As I said, this is not a tutorial. There will be many videos from now on about post-production and behind the scene of some of my work and how I use Lightroom to do that. One of the cool features I didn't mention though is Lightroom really works well with the operating system where you're on, and also any other Adobe product. And for example, if I right click on this image here, you see edit. I can edit this image in Adobe Photoshop CS6 or in another version of Photoshop, or even in another application whatsoever, whether it's Adobe or not, using other applications. So if you have Aperture, or if you have another tool like GIMP, for example, instead of Photoshop, you could edit it like this. So really cool stuff. Many features in Lightroom, but very easy to use. Just to give you a rough idea, Lightroom retail price, I believe, is about £100, so I think it's really a bargain for what it is. And once again, it's not because I work at Adobe, but I really think it's fantastic. If you compare the price with the full version of Photoshop, that might be very expensive for some of you. Lightroom is not as powerful as Photoshop, but it will do most of your work. And as a matter of fact, I use Lightroom for 90% of all the post-production that I do, and the 10% left, I'll do it in Photoshop when it's about removing, power lines at the background of a photograph, and that's how I use it, or to, repair some damage shot that I have, and I do that in Photoshop. But for the rest, Lightroom is really the tool to use. I don't know if I said it already at the beginning, but if you're interested by Lightroom, there is a trial version, a 30-day trial version, fully featured. There's no restriction, and you can download it from Adobe free of charge because it's a trial version for 30 days. And really go for it and have it a go. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to contact me, or even Adobe support for that matter. But I'll be happy to do a video explaining some tricks using Lightroom in the future. Alright, so until next time, this is Tom Migot saying, if you like it, well, capture it.